Hey guys, I knew at some point I'd have to get my other cat into the video. Welcome back to the channel, Hyphens Classics. Right, it's been a while, but the Gearbox story, never quite finished it. So now, today, we're going to go through the build of the transfer box. This is the last component, and so we'll also talk through putting the whole gearbox together, transfer case, forward drive, etc. The good news is that I finished the slides and we're getting into the videos now, so you'll actually hear some of my commentary now will be from the time I was actually working on the car and on the components. So we're going to try and string the story together as much as possible. The downside that I found looking through back through my footage is that for some reason there's a few little bits and pieces that are missing. I think the big one for me is when I did the infloat on the main output shaft of the transfer case. So I'm going to try and get some content that I can put in there for you just to show what it is and how you go about doing it. It's not that difficult, to be fair. Just it's a bit of faffing around, and you've got to have all the right bits and pieces to be able to do it, but it's not as difficult as some of the other things you have to do. So and definitely worth a try. So anyway, that's the intro over. It will start off with pictures, and I will narrate over as much of it as possible without being too invasive, and then we'll get through to the videos and we'll run through this. This one will be a bit longer than most, but again, like always, hope you enjoy. If you do, please hit the like button, and remember, subscribe and comment. It's always great to get your feedback on how I'm going with these videos, and it's always good to hear your experiences as well. Okay, see you at the end, guys. Now that we've shown you the pictures of the transfer case coming apart, we're now going to show you some images from the parts manual. First thing we're going to be removing is the intermediate gear, and there's a little nut on a stud that needs to come off first, a little bar that holds the shaft that everything sits on. When you pull this out, there are little shims and thrust washers. The thrust washers need to be checked, and you need to make sure you keep the shims. You may need more when you put this back in. The next thing, we're going to pull the gearbox out, and as you can see, the output shaft of the gearbox is being circled now. That's sitting inside, that pokes through into the transfer case, but that'll all come out as you pull it out. Just remember, as you unbolt the gearbox, there are nuts on studs on the outside, but there's also bolts on the inside of the transfer case to free that up. Now looking at the output shaft of the transfer case itself, and that's what we're going to remove in the next videos. Okay, so to get this out, we've got to drop this bearing outer race out of here, and unfortunately the only way to really do that is to start tapping this with a hammer. Unfortunately I can't hold the video and do that at the same time, so we'll have a go and come back in just a minute. As you can see, with just a few taps, that race is starting to come out now, so a few more taps and hopefully that will pop out. Okay, as you can see, race is now popped out. This is where it's popped out of. I've tipped it over again. As you see, put a piece of cloth under to protect the casing and the gears, and also this side. So that's popped out now. So in the workshop manual, the next thing to do is you would have pulled out this circlip here, and then if you have an old bearing race of that size, you cut a slot so you can drop it in here, and then with the special tool over here to protect the thread, you put that over the top and then beat it back the other way to pop that one out. However, A, I don't have the tool, and B, I found a slightly easier way. If we just get the blunt chisel to pull this off, which it says in the workshop manual, just a blunt chisel to go around here to pop this bearing out, then you can undo the circlip and the thrust washer, and then you can pull the shaft out of this side while taking all the gears off, and then the whole thing comes apart. You haven't had to take that race out at all, unless of course you're replacing it, but once all of that's out, you can get it from this side and tap it out. So as I said, I'll be back in just a minute. Right, so as we can see, it's now bearings out a little bit. We can see the circlip will be need to be replaced, so just here, and this is the thrust washer that also needs to be replaced, because there's just too much play in between this gear and the main shaft. So got my circlip pliers on an angle, so I'll better get in there and pop that out slowly and hopefully withdraw the shaft. So we'll be back in just a sec when I have this off. Alright, as you can see, the bearing is now away a little bit, so I have a pair of circlip pliers. This is the one that extend out, and we just squeeze that out and get that off the lip. Okay, give it another try, and then we should be able to start sliding all of this stuff out. Okay, I'm going to put the video down again. I need 3 hands. Right, so as a bit of a support, put a couple of blocks of wood in here so this low wheel gear is not going to smack against the casing. And I've given it a couple of taps, and we've loosened this all off now. So while I've got 2 hands, we can pop out these bits of wood now. And as we can see, pick up this, we should slowly be able to pull out this shaft, as you can see. So I'm going to try and keep this video running. Not quite sure how yet. So I need to capture all those bits and pieces, but hang on a sec. Right, hope you caught that. So there we go. Output shafts out. And all good. We have all our bits. Circlip's still on the bottom, no problem. That's going in the bin. This is the thrust washer. So this slowly wears over time. I'm going to get, I've got a new one. I'm going to just go and double check the thicknesses and see how much has actually been lost from that. And the key thing here is when we grab this high-speed wheel, where this sits on the output shaft, comes in here and sits here. The gap between the gap in here, when this is all together, is supposed to be between 0.15 and 2.2 mil. Mine was 0.28. So we're going to, as I said, change the thrust washer. We're just going to check it all now before it all goes back in, so we don't have to pull that back out again. So we're back on a couple of more images as we get ready to put everything back together. So showing you the main shaft just before. Now this is the cover for the PTO takeoff. It's covered up like that just to keep all the bearings together. So there's needle bearings inside, were inside there, and I didn't want to lose anything. So just cleaning up the casing here, going over it with steel wool and brushes to clean it up. We've got all the new parts in, some new bearings and some thrust washers and all the bits and pieces. Here's one of the bearings that's going into for the output shaft. Here's the old and the new one, and here we are back on the videos. Right, time to put a few things back together. The video will jump around a bit because I don't really have anything to hold the camera with while I'm working. So here we have the output shaft, gears that will be going into the transfer box. Just a few points to note when you're putting things in. As per the workshop manual, make sure you keep the gears protected with cloth as they come in through here, so don't damage the casing or the gears. Anyway, we'll be back in a few minutes when I have a few bits in, show you where we're up to. So we have the lower gear wheel on first, with the selector fork heading towards the back of the car, the output. We have the high gear wheel next, followed by, if you can just see in there, there's a thrust washer. Oops, sorry, can't quite see. Just in here, and then the circlip and the bearing. And we'll slide all this on until we can get a point where we can actually push the circlip into the slot that's in the shaft. And then put the bearings in, bearing casings. The bearings in, it's just the bearing casing on the outside there. We'll be tapping that home. And then I'll give you an update in just a minute. Okay, we have the low gear wheel up in place now, and the high gear wheel also up touching the gears, and as you can see now there is a space for the thrust washer and also a locating slot there. There's one on each side, so that doesn't spin around, and then the circlip that should come in and clip into this slot here. Okay, so this bearing's in place, and then once we've all drop that in, we'll be putting this outer race on the outside through and to this bearing to hold it in. Once this is all in, obviously you have to double check the tightness, but we'll go through that in just a minute. Back on more photos. Here we have the worm drive for the Speedo. Here's the housing, the Speedo housing. And then we move on, we get the shims. There's a whole bunch of different shims you can get, and we need to layer these up. Layer those down over the studs, then put the housing on top, bolt it in, and then what we're going to do is test the infloat. At this point I have to apologise. I've found with the old footage there's been a couple of slight issues. So the footage we're looking at now I must have had the radio on in the background for this piece of footage and also for the next piece of footage. So because of copyright laws I have had to mute all of the sound out here. What was going on here is I was just getting ready to put the PTO cover plate on, which is in the next piece of the video. The other thing is I haven't been able to find the content around the inflate, so I'll try and put something in there for you, either in the end of this video or in another video to come. As we can see with the transfer case, this is when I'd moved on to using just gaskets and grease. The old style method. Now, be interesting to hear your comments below on what you think of doing it this way. Certainly from my perspective, when you're using this sort of method, there's less chance of getting silicone and rubbish inside the casings and gearbox. In one of my other projects recently, I have had to pull a sump off a car, and someone's used some silicone sealant, and I've been pulling little bits of it out of the oil pump, which of course can cause major problems up inside the engine bay. However, I'd still be interested in hear what people think, because now the Land Rover is together and I've been using it for a little bit, and it's been had oil sitting in it. This sort of gasket style, well, you know, certain parts of it still leak. Not all of it, but some of it will still leak. So the silicone I did use, which was really on the front drive, I don't believe I've seen too many leaks coming out of that yet. So there's a good argument to say that actually using silicone is a better idea. But I guess with time and experience, maybe you can get silicone to a point where you do such a good job that you won't get silicone going into the inside of any of the components. So if you're there, fantastic. Maybe you could still do it. Right, just taking a break from the axle because that needs a few things to be taken apart again, so move on and do some more work on the gearbox. So this is the exciting bit, the biggest and probably for me the biggest oil seal to get right. That's pretty much all the oil is going to be sitting on this one. Still seems a bit weird, to be honest, that a piece of cardboard and grease is holding in back 6 pints of oil. Still, there you go. Here we go. We'll put in the studs back in and slap back on, and time will tell whether it's worked. Ooh, sorry about that. Right. Hopefully, I won't see you guys for a long time, except when looking in the inspection hatch for how much oil's in there. It's been fun playing with this. Definitely last big part to go on here from my perspective. So here we go, all going on, and hopefully she all fits. Oh, looks nice. Right, we'll tighten that up. Right, all finishing touches now. Speedo. On the earlier ones it comes out the right hand side, move it over the other side in the later vehicles, and having put the handbrake anchor in, realised it made it a little bit awkward to work in there for myself, but hey, I guess that's what you're going to work with when you're trying to service a vehicle anyway, so we'll cope with it. When working around the hole, I decided that putting something in there like a cloth when you're working is a good idea, so you don't drop anything metal down there, because that would be a rather large pain to get out. Just one other thing while I'm here, these nuts, I've seen a lot of people actually remanufacture themselves because they're quite hard to get hold of, but I followed up on a lead that Ian Ottey, I learnt off him, went to Namrick. They do some very good BSF nuts and bolts, so they had them, so great, saves me using the old ones. I was wondering what I was going to do because I was one short, so instead I've got 8 new ones. Not too bad. Anyway, progress there, putting all those bits in. This is going in next. I may or may not, I'm not quite sure whether to stick the Speedo cable in yet. Might leave that a little bit, but anyway, this piece has got to go in first, and then we'll go from there. All gaskets there for the top. Right, these things are quite heavy, aren't they, when you try and lift them by yourself? Anyway, safely over the other side, no drops. Last cover plate going on. Again, not looking in there too many times anymore, hopefully. Speedo housing's in, just waiting for that. Got to order some brake drums for the axles and the handbrake this week. Get those on, get the drum on. Gosh, what else? Just taken these are coming off. I'm going to paint them, and also I noticed I put them on the wrong side. I had them around the wrong way, so that's got to go back on. Finish off the reverse gate, and now that it's up this way, actually, once I've actually put it over on the storage bench, I will put the gear sticks back in, and do all the final configuration of this the selectors and make sure that's all in the right place. But as I said, at the moment, because I keep turning it over, I think we will be leaving those off until I'm ready to store it. Anyway, last plate going back on. Looking nice. Right, find out what I do with the nuts and put that back on. Cheers. Right, I hope you've been enjoying those videos, and it's great to finally get some video content on the Land Rover build. So, I still haven't been able to find the in-float content, and maybe I didn't film it. I can't remember. It was a few years back now. But anyway, what I do remember is getting a piece of cord, and it can't have any stretch in it, and I wrapped it around and around one of the gears with the output shaft, hung a specific weight on it, and then measured the rate of drop as you let that weight go. So again, any comments, anyone else who's done this who may have some better information or something we can share with the rest of the channel, I'd really appreciate it. I will keep digging around to see if I can find something at least that we can post anyway to help explain what it is. I did read something somewhere, but it was more Series 3 and didn't involve everything that I remember doing. So kind of got really keen to find out a little bit more about what happens in the Series 1. I've had a look in my workshop manual, which is kind of a copy, and it's missing a whole bunch of pages, and just so happens those pages are missing. So I'm going to try and dig around and find out for you guys. So anyway, again, hope you enjoyed it. Hope you guys are staying safe. Look, and in the UK it's sunny, so I hope you're enjoying that. I was talking to someone in near New York yesterday who said it's snowing there. It's going to be snowing for the next few days. So anyway, wherever you are, I hope you're staying safe and warm, and we'll see you in the next episode. Take care for now. Bye-bye.